And then God shows us, as he is modeling and admonishing us, that he wants us to go to our brothers, because that kind of allows the person to get it together. It gives them an opportunity to self-correct and route correct, and to say, I love you, and to help them to choose estrangement again. Because every time you reach out, happy birthday, Merry Christmas, that's you giving them an opportunity to either continue in the estrangement or to turn towards you and begin to walk in the direction of reunification. So someone has to be mature. And I know sometimes people are like, why is it always me? Why do I have to be the bigger person? I read a text that said, instead of being the bigger person, how about hanging around people who aren't so small? But in families, God does grace different ones to have more maturity and more insight. And the Bible says it's better to give than receive. So if you're able to give mercy and able to give reason, that means you have it. And so God expects much given, much required. It doesn't mean that you're supposed to be a doormat and they have permission to walk all over you. But it is saying that you've been equipped with more, so he's expecting you to do more. Just like Joseph was equipped with more gifting, so God was expecting him to expand his gift and use it to bless Israel. So you bring a witness because you really want to close that gap, especially if you're spiritual. You just can't say whatever, sarai, and I'll be worshiping at this church, you worship at that church, and I'm still saved, you're still saved. God is saying no. The strategic plan is to, after they've done something and you told them and they won't hear you, take a witness. And if they don't hear the witness, bring it before the church and let the church decide, and then exile that person and let them know that you cannot be in the family of God if you won't be in the family of brotherhood. So there are two families. I mean, there's one family, but there's also brotherhood and sisterhood in the family of God. So you're just not going to skip and have a relationship with God and not have a relationship with your siblings in the faith and be estranged from your brothers and sisters. God's not having that, and that's misinformation. Even though people do it, I've watched people open up churches with grudges and with estrangement from family members, children, and siblings. I've watched it. And God is not pleased, and that's not the order of God. That doesn't reflect kingdom. So we have to remember that and admonish our church members, our family members, and our clients, if they're spiritual, that this is not the way you course correct this. You have to bring the witnesses and you have to go through the process, not triangulate and tell people how wrong you've been and never tell the person. And then God shows that he is willing to let it go. That's hard for us because we want to be the judge, the juror, and we want to execute punishment. But God showed that he was willing to forgive humanity when he came in the form, when he gave his son, and when he gave himself, he robed himself in dirt and died on the cross and gave his life so that we can be reconciled. So he let it go. So the recipe, God's recipe for estrangement is forgiveness. If you're holding a grudge, someone hurt you, God is saying, trust me and forgive, let it go. Forgiveness is not reconciliation, but it's being willing to let God handle the pain. It's being willing to take the pain out of your body and your mind and your cells, transfer them to God, and clear up your system so that when the person does apologize, you'll be in a position to hear them. That's what God did. He let it go. And then if there's estrangement biblically and you can't talk to the person, they won't talk to you, pray. And the reason why you pray is because you want to keep bitterness out of your heart. You don't want to be offended like, oh, that I did for them. I raised them and I sacrificed. Oh, they're mad at me. Well, I'm not talking to them. You don't want to be defensive and respond in that way. But you want to keep your heart in a position of like the prodigal son and like God, willing to reconcile when the time comes, willing to bridge the gap of estrangement at any opportunity. And the only thing that can keep you ready is a pure heart and keeping the grudge out and keeping the negativity out and just remaining focused on the goal and the value of family and on love and learning how to love them that don't love you back. That's a God attribute, that you can love and pray for someone who's not even talking to you. Been there, done that, have t-shirts. Taking calls from bill collectors of people who don't talk to me. Prayed for people who were sick who were not talking to me. Getting messages from other family members to pray for family members who are not talking to me, and still honestly praying for people who are not talking to me. It's a mark of spiritual maturity. And because of my profession, I know more, so I am responsible for more. And if you know more, you're going to be responsible for more. The time may come where you're not just being asked to pray for people who love you and treat you well, but that estranged family member. You know, you have to maintain your integrity and your character in the midst of someone rejecting and rejecting you, accusing you, and refusing to even have a conversation with you. You get to love them still so that your heart stays pure and you don't become estranged from them. We were estranged from God, but God was never angry and estranged from us. He wanted to have relationship. The next thing you can do is resist the guilt, because that's part of the ploy of the person that leaves in that way, not the person who leaves because they're just independent or they are embarrassed of you. Well, even the people who are leaving because they're embarrassed of you, or they think they're better than you. They want to guilt you into saying you're not good enough to be in a relationship with me, or you messed up, or you hurt me, or you're not valuable, or you're a toxic person. That guilt can change how you see yourself and cause a withdrawal where you don't want to be in relationships because you think you're broke. You think something's wrong with you. You think that you cause a lot of pain. So it causes you to go into your shell and you feel guilty and you feel like, oh, I've destroyed the family. Oh, look what I've done. I set a boundary and now the family is not coming together. You can be accused of breaking up a family. And that doesn't mean that you really broke up the family, because the family consists first, remember, of the adults, the parents. They model togetherness. They model forgiveness. They model communication and reconciliation. So it takes two parties, or it takes the parents or other two parties to decide to dismantle the unit of a family. Resist false guilt. If you did nothing, you're not responsible. And that's why you need support again to reinforce, the feeling is not the fact. People can feel that you're guilty. That's not a fact. You have to begin to slow it down and examine, am I responsible for this estrangement, or is this just the person's choice? Why does someone have to be guilty? If you choose not to be in my life, why do we have to blame and guilt someone? Why can't we just amicably say, I'm choosing to build another world? You still feel rejection, but the objective is to accept that people have the choice to build different worlds. Take accountability, though. I would say this as you're dealing with estrangement, and identify, what did I do to contribute to it? Even if it's the fact that I didn't set good boundaries, even if it's the fact that I let people walk all over me for years and then I decided to speak up, even if it's the fact that, I shared someone's intimate details with someone else. Whatever it is, be willing to take your portion of the infraction and of the split and the estrangement, because it helps you to become more responsible and accountable, and it helps you to be a better person in relationships. And it helps you so when if the person comes back and you want to have the conversation, you know exactly what you did, and you can offer that as a show of forgiveness and course correction, and that you're safe to begin the process of reconciliation. We have to remember that Jesus was a unity person. He talked about the oneness of unity, and he always constantly talked about seeking peace and how we are one body, and how, he's kept us all together except for the one he lost. But it was important that he would keep us all together, and he prayed for our unity. Jesus prayed that we would be kept. And so the enemy would have us to be fragmented and be divisive. One of the things that God hates is discord. He hates division. He hates that it's sown, because he's one God and he wants his people to be one people. Estrangement doesn't please God, even though there are conditions where you may need to set estrangement to keep people safe, to keep children safe, to keep property safe. But again, that's trimming, that's not cutting. And sometimes when it is cutting, that is not even cutting, it's trimming. It's removing the person, still praying for the person, still loving the person, but not being able to be in contact. And it should hurt you that you're not able to be in contact with the person, and you still pray for them and you pray them well. God is concerned about unity. And while it's so easy to walk in estrangement and to cut it off, I just encourage you to be a cheerleader, a campaigner, to fight for the unity of the family, and to recognize estrangement's tactics, and when things are happening that will create estrangement, and to interrupt them with boundaries and with clear communication. And if you're willing and if you're committed, you can reduce the amount of estrangements in your family and in your sphere of influence. God bless you.